Hey, Hashem here with Flat Fee Landlord Houston, property management serving the greater Houston area. Today I want to take a quick moment just to talk about a conversation I recently had with a current landlord that's using another property management company, and he was talking to me about switching over because he wasn't having a whole lot of success with the current property manager. And while we were speaking, something came up in regards to number one, he was in a contract, and his contract required him to give a 30-day notice, and so for that he wasn't able to hire us right away. So he had to give him, if he is going to make the switch, he has to make the switch after 30 days. The next thing that kind of stuck out to me while I was speaking to him was the fact that this multi-unit property are vacant, and he was telling me how he can't continue to produce a investment property this way because in order for him to make money and cash flow, he needs to make sure all those units are rented at all times. So you can't have 3 out of 4 or 6 out of 8 rented at a time. You got to try to maximize and have those all rented at once in order to actually have good cash flow. All things I agreed with. I understand. We work with investors all the time, so I really heard and understood where it came from. The third thing he brought up, which kind of caught my ear, was that he reached out to his existing property manager, and he told him that if he doesn't find somebody, or if the property manager doesn't find somebody to rent out the units that are currently vacant, then at that point he's going to switch over to us. And while he was talking, I started asking a few questions like, hey, can you walk me through the process that the other property manager goes through when they find a tenant? I asked, are you getting any feedback currently, from current people that are walking through? And, he said, yeah, right now the only feedback I'm getting is from the property manager is that the people that are contacting them or coming through the property are people that really don't qualify, people that have either been evicted once before or may cause a situation where they may be evicted again if they get placed. So, that led me down the road and asked them a follow-up question where I said, hey, sir, what happens if you gave him a 30-day pretty much ultimatum of you need to get these 2 units rented or I'm going somewhere else? Do you have a say in terms of who they put in your property? Do they provide you their background screening? Do they show you, hey, this is their credit score, this is their past eviction history, this is their rental history? These are the interview answers that I got when I interviewed their previous property manager or landlord. And he said, no, typically they place the tenant, they sign the lease themselves, they don't really tell me anything about who's in there. All I do is collect a check, which, sounds good. As a landlord, you want to make sure you collect a check. But then I asked, well, what happens if, since you're giving them an ultimatum and saying that you got to place people in this property within 30 days or I'm getting out, and up to this point, all the people that, the feedback that you're getting of all the people that are interested in this property are people that don't really qualify, why wouldn't they then, all of a sudden, if they want to make sure they meet that ultimatum, fill it with somebody that really probably doesn't even qualify to rent the property? And then what's going to happen after that? Let's say they just fill it just to fill it, and then 30, 60 days down the road, now you have to evict this person, and it becomes, your problem as a landlord. And it kind of opened up his eyes there a little bit, because I don't think he really understood what goes into placing a tenant. And that's something I really want to talk about shortly here in this video, is that when you are a landlord and you own a property, at the end of the day, you can hire a management company, you can do it yourself, you can hire just one person to manage your property. It doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, the thing that's going to make this process simple for you, the most important part of this process of renting out your property, is going to be finding a perfect tenant. And as a landlord, again, you can hire a property manager, you can do it yourself. If anything, you got to be somewhat involved when it comes to placing a tenant. And whether it's that's you advertising yourself, or if anything, just authorizing the person that goes into that property and it's going to be renting from you, at the very least, you should have a say, or at least know what type of person is moving in. And when I say what type of person, I'm talking about their rental history, eviction history, income verification, identification verification. You just really want to make sure that the person that's moving in there doesn't have a history of bad tenancy, because the history is the only and probably best indicator of their future being a tenant with you. So if they've been bad in the past, it's probably not all of a sudden they flip a switch and they're going to be good for you. So as a landlord, again, if you have a property manager, please make sure that when that property manager places a tenant in your property, you at least see what that type of tenant or the background history of that tenant, so that you know what you're getting yourself into, because again, at the end of the day, you own that property. Here at our firm at Flat Fee Landlord, we don't place any tenants without getting a soft or a hard approval from our landlords. Every tenant that we've always placed has had some type of approval from the landlord, the owner of the property, and that's the only way we operate. Okay, at the end of the day, this property belongs to you, the landlord, so you should know who is in your property. I know there's a lot of property management companies out there that are just, hey, sign us over the property, just collect checks and be happy. Well, unfortunately, instances like this happen where the last person that was just in that property just got evicted. Now they're trying to find a new person. Who knows if that person's going to be evicted? At the end of the day, you're not going to know, because you didn't see the history of this property, this tenant living in this property. So that's my advice for you. Please, as landlords, whether you hire a property management company or not, be involved somehow in some way in terms of approving the tenant that's going to be in your property. Check their background history, get the results from their credit checks. If they seem like they have good credit, strong rental history, no complaints from previous landlords, at that point you should feel pretty secure in terms of having them move in. But if you're just leaving it 100% up to a third-party manager to do that, then that's again trust that you're putting in them, and hopefully it turns out for you. But sometimes just beware that it may not. So if you have any other questions in terms of how we place tenants, how involved we ask the landlords to be with these tenants, or any questions that you should, as a landlord, ask a property manager or a prospective tenant for your property, feel free to reach out to us. Our website is houstonpropertymanager.com or flatfeelandlordhouston.com.